I think that just growing up in church, for all my life really, I learned through Sunday school and things like that, the difference between love, agape love, and then eros, which is romantic love, and in my relationship with my fiance, I feel like we try to exercise agape love.
Yes.
Because, like you said, that's the love that will love you at your worst and at your best.
Yeah.
That's the love that will keep pushing, even though at that point I may not feel like it. But because I love you, or love my fiance, I will do it. And also, I think that the fact that we've prioritized God
Yes.
in our relationship, I
Absolutely.
think our third or fourth date was at church. Maybe our third date was at church, because at the time that I met him, I actually was in a transitional place spiritually, where I was leaving one church home and I was looking for another church home. And at the time I met him, he had just come here for work, and he was traveling to Boston to go to church on the weekend. So he was looking for a church home in Connecticut. So it was definitely God putting us together at the perfect time to give us the ability to start somewhere and grow together. So we found a church that we've been attending, and of course COVID has kind of interrupted our physical attendance, but online attendance. But just knowing the difference between that agape love and then the romantic love, because we think that relationships are just about romance, and it's a long-term, it's a forever relationship.
Yes.
And there will be times where that will not be as present as it was in the beginning, because in the beginning everything's new and exciting and fun, but then that person has to deal with your stuff, you have to deal with their stuff. There's going to be confrontations as far as what you agree on, what you don't agree on, two individuals, because our society really does train us up to be independent. And now I have to be interdependent with my spouse in certain areas where it's like, we have to balance each other out. We can't, I don't want him, he can't overpower me, I can't overpower him, but it's really me trusting his leadership and being submissive, and being, and trusting the God in him to make certain decisions. And because, God is a good father, I can trust that this is the person he put in my life, so I can submit because I see those qualities of God in him.
That's right.
And I feel like that will resonate later on with our children as we prioritize who's the head, and as me being his helpmate, and the children being under us stewarding over them. So I think it's really, really important for young women to understand that yes, you can have romance in your relationship, of course in marriage, but also just recognize that there's a season for everything.
That's right.
There's a season for everything, and those seasons constantly change, and you have to be willing to be properly clothed for those seasons, and definitely staying in the Word of God as a woman, but also trusting the headship of God and the leadership of your husband in that household. One thing we discussed early on was what kind of marriage we want, because there are differences. There's a traditional marriage where moms stay at home and raise the kids, and dad provides, and then there's more of a marriage where we both are working. He may want to stay at home at some point. Maybe I'll go out. So we discussed that, what kind of dynamic would we want once children become a part of the picture. Because I'm currently in school. My fiance is a nurse, but there are so many opportunities in nursing where he could work from home, I could work from home, we could work part-time, we could both work, so, and also, like you said, community is so important. So we've had conversations with mom about, hey, mom, when your grandma,
retirement coming up, right?
You're retiring,
right?
Would you like to, be the,
waiting.
Would you like to live with us, would you like to help us, in the first couple years of our children being young, so they have that connection with their grandparents, or, that helps us also just, kind of build up, so that we got to think about college. I mean, I'm not a parent yet, but I appreciate all the parents in the room, because children, I really couldn't appreciate everything my parents did until I moved out of the house.
Yes.
Where, like you said, reality sets in, bills, how am I going to get this done, transportation, so, all those things. But also, I think that community is so important, because we've become a society of loners.
Yes.
Where, especially with COVID, it's kind of distanced us even more. But, we become a loners, and really you need those aunts and uncles and friends and neighbors and all those people. As a child, I remember me and my sister could go pretty much anywhere in our neighborhood, and they knew who our parents were. We would go to friends' houses, but everyone was looking out for everyone else.
Wonderful.
And that's really what I desire moving forward, is to find that it won't be perfect. Nothing ever is, and building relationships is difficult. And sometimes there may be that neighbor that you just don't connect with. But just having that. But the focus really should be kind of creating that balance, and which is hard to find. It really is hard to find the balance between knowing that God is God, and yes, He's going to He has a perfect will and plan for you and your partner's life, but also you have to do the work.
Yes.
The work and the faith have to balance out. It can't just be all faith and no work. It can't be all work and no faith.
Yeah, absolutely. So true. And when you go into it knowing that it's going to be a work, that we need to, and it's not, I did the work. No, I'm doing the work. We're working together. When you know that, when you go into a marriage knowing that this is going to take our efforts to make it successful.
Yes.
It's like half the battle is already won.
Yes.
It's when you go into it thinking, this is just a fairy tale. This is like happily ever after.
Amen.
My children are going to be perfect, My house is going to be perfect. And then you wake up one day and the house is upside down and your mother-in-law is knocking at the door and you're like, I can't
True that.
And this is just reality. Yeah. But if you learn not to sweat the small stuff.
No, that's it. That's it. Just live.
God, thank you for your grace to do this.
Yes, He's
Praise
awesome.
God. Praise God.
Yeah. The other part I loved about their coming together was the way each one of them has set themselves aside. Because I was like, what draw you to her? It's like, and he was so wonderful. He said, I watched her. I literally watched her. And then we would have little discussions while we were working together, and I'd be like, wow, she's so compassionate about this. She's so diligent, and just her Christian standards, like she had standards for him.
Amen.
And we don't create standards like kids today. They have no standards. They don't have any goals. They don't see that there's order to the relationship. And he was just like, he said, came to them and said, Mom, when he was getting ready to ask her her hand, and he's like, I thought she was the most awesome young woman I ever seen. I said, when I saw her, I said, I know she's the one. And he watched her, and then he finally approached her, and like I said, their relationship has evolved today, but like a sock, and it fit perfectly, And I was like, God, how good are you? Because my prayers have always been that for the girls is that they would find that God would bring them into a relationship with a male, but a male that respects who God is first and foremost, and that knowing how to relate to that woman, that they would respect her. Because I've always told people, my kids are diamonds, they are rubies,
That's right.
They are emeralds, and nobody gets to have that precious stone unless God has put them together.
That's right.
And that's why I said, Lord, I thank you for honoring the prayer, and I believe it for the other two when it's His time for it to happen. But I'm like, wow, look at you, like people say, didn't you put, because people knew my prayer for my children. They're like, how could you be sad or upset? God has just unfolded what He wanted for them, and He's done exactly what you asked Him to do. And so I was like, you know what? Now when I think I get almost giggly inside, because I'm like, you just know how to do it the right way. Nobody does it like Jesus, And like I said, it was as if we never did not know each other. And it's like when we went to the airport, I had to come back later, and he came and picked me up. And it was really the first time I think we had intimate time together. And we were just shooting the breeze and talking about some things, and it was like effortless, just effortless. Wonderful. And he's like, Mom, and I'm like, son. And I think one of my kids might got a little upset because I was paying him more attention than I was paying her. It's like this is not about Ben, this is about me. But it's so funny. It's like people don't know how to move over and let people build relationships. And I said, but it's okay because we're all, like I said, each one of us are in love with him. He's just. God could not have sent her a greater gift.
Wonderful.
And so it's like I look forward to the day, and he says it too, Mom. You know, when we get a house, we gotta do that. You know, we're gonna have your own space for you to be in, and you'll be able to do what you need to do. But you know, we need you to be there because he believes in family. He believes in the fruit of the womb. You know.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm like,
yes.
who does it better than
Yeah.
Jesus? Nobody.
So wonderful those common chords that you have.
Yes.
Because that is going to keep you
Mm-hmm.
when the storms of life come against you, because they will come.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesus, and when you have those common
chords,
chords, what does it say? A three-string chord is not easily broken. Glory to God.
Amen.
You know, and that's you, him, but intertwined.
Yes.
With Jesus.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely been like an adjustment because my fiance is Haitian, and so Caribbean culture, versus American culture, African American culture, it's been an adjustment just culturally, even in the beginning when we went to church, because he went to a traditional Pentecostal Haitian church, and so when we first got to our new church that's non-denominational, he was like, "Oh my God, what's going on here?" But the one thing is that the Holy Spirit, the fact that he has the Holy Spirit, that kind of settled him. And he was like, "Okay, I can get with some of this." The pastor's not in a three-piece suit. I mean, he grew up in Haiti until he was almost 11 years old. So so he was just like, this is a little strange. But then now it's just like. It's home. It's home for us. And I think that, if I had not been in a transition, maybe the prior place I was in, I don't know if it would have fit for us. And I think that, especially being a Christian and being, in the space, I think for us, it's important to recognize where you're at spiritually and the needs of both you and your partner. And, if there's a singles ministry, if there's a women's ministry, to kind of lean on those things to help build you up to be that wife and be that husband. But also just, having those things in place to help us grow as young people, because we need guidance. I'm 30 years old, but I'm 32, but I still need guidance. I still need direction. And I think that when you're young and you're getting married, having those ministries available to the men, to the young men, to the young women, to the couples is so critical, because we need to bounce off of each other. We need to see that there's some common things that we all will encounter. We learn to work through together, and with the guidance of your pastor, youth leader, whoever else. So I think that was like so key in the spiritual part of our relationship, is the fact that we started together. And sometimes as women we may be a little bit, especially if we grew up in church, because I'm a church girl. Sometimes we're so far up here spiritually, and we meet a man, and he's not down here, but he's kind of like, he's making his way. You can't be all the way up here and leave your partner behind, especially because he's supposed to be the head. And before I met him, I asked God, I was like, some of my other relationships, they weren't bad, but why didn't they work out? And God kind of like gave me this kind of illustration that I was in college spiritually, and that person was in elementary school. And so I took that as, the next person I meet, they need to be in college. They need to go to college.
They don't have to be a senior with me.
It's not enough to just say, "Oh, I'm a believer," but if your lifestyle and where you are and your priorities are not the same, it makes it very hard to come together, especially when it comes to a marriage. So that was like that was mind blowing for me. And this is like at least a year and a half before I met him. But I was just like, I will not make that mistake again. I will not do that again, because we're growing spiritually together. We're getting the same word. We might not get the same interpretation because it's individual, but it's great. And I was telling my mom, like, just being in church, I think one of the biggest, like, sometimes setbacks and people may like be really shocked, but the wait on God thing that women are waiting on God for a husband, and it's like, I've heard that it's been said so many times. Just wait on the Lord. Just wait on the Lord. Yes, wait on the Lord in the way that you wait for God to show you who is eligible and who is not eligible, but you do your work, like you said, in the preparation and the choosing, because I have to choose him and he has to choose me. And so, the wait on God thing is I think it's misinterpreted. especially for young women in church, it's just like he's gonna fall out of the sky.
That's
He's not
right.
gonna fall out of the
No.
sky.
Nah.
You have to put yourself in
That's right.
social situations where you'll meet Christian
That's
men. Not that
right.
you seek after them,
Right.
because he that findeth a wife,
That's
Right.
but
right.
you have to be a proximity of
That's
these
right.
of
That's
these
right.
men. You can't just
Yeah.
be all the way out here and they're over there and they don't see you, because
Right.
like you said, like my fiance told my mom, he watched me. Yeah, we worked together. We had worked together, and the first thing I would come and do at work was clean, because the place would be a mess, and she always kept a really clean house. So that was like just instinct for me. I gotta clean. I wiping everything down, throwing away trash, and I'm fussing. Oh, this is so, but but I'm doing the work. I'm cussing people out, but as I'm doing the work, I'm like, oh, you guys are so disgusting. What's wrong with you? But I'm doing it, and he likes to clean as well. So it was kind of like those things that you notice about each other. I noticed that he was a hard worker, and so I admired that, because it's like, who wants a lazy woman? Who wants a lazy man?
That's right.
Two lazy people together, you're not going to get much done.
That's right.
So it's just definitely wait on God, but also do your work.
Yes.
Do your work.
It's an active waiting.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It's an
Yes.
active, exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a waiting with an expectation.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's so wonderful just to hear all of this,
Yeah.
because it's like your foundation was really God. You know, your foundation, and even if you weren't, let's say, serving God, your mother had her godly ways of doing things. And so as you grew and were seeking, let's say, more of God or more of the Word, you were also building that foundation even greater. And so like when the two of you or the three of you as a family have come together, your standards were God's standards. Reading the virtuous woman, there's a certain standard that she's bringing. And now there are a lot of things that may not apply to us today because of,
The times.
certain conveniences, right. But at the same time, it's not saying that the virtuous woman is going to sit down at home and wait to get her nails done, or wait to, to not do anything, and her children are, they're just going to run around and watch TV. Like, that's not the expectation. And like you said, for your relationship, while you were waiting, you were working. Faith without works is dead.
Amen.
What kind of works it is, it doesn't tell you specifically, but you're building up until whatever unfolds, whatever God has for you. And so I think a lot of things, I keep hearing, like, sometimes I watch the Steve Harvey show, and a lot of times these women are asking him questions, and I find it amazing. I'm like, they're asking him? Okay, but yet he also tries to bring it back a lot of times to what he knows from the Word.
Yes.
And then he'll also say, but where's your standard?
Yeah.
And he'll ask them those questions like, I don't know, and then they'll say, well, this guy doesn't really pay attention to me, but I really like him. It's like, but, did you tell him that you have an expectation? Did you, and so there's always this kind of like, again, as you had mentioned, you're in this college level and you're dealing with people that are in elementary school. And this is what society does, is because, they look at the person and they're attracted to them and they think that they'd be a good fit, but everything else is still elementary. Yeah, so it's like, it's just very interesting, and I'm so grateful that, you came today and that you shared this word with us, and, and just where you're at, because a lot of people need to see that they've got to up their game. They've got to start working. I mean, I know in the Bible, every time I was listening to you speak, I also think of Esther.
Yes.
Like, there was a preparation for her in order to marry the king.
Yes.
It wasn't just something overnight, like, oh, she's perfect, I want her. There was a time and a preparation for things to happen. And I think people just want to skip the preparation and say, okay, I'm ready, let's go.
Yeah.
Because I'm this old and I need to have children. Like, and they maintain
it.
Right. And it's so great to hear, and so blessed to have you here today, because it's just having this come out and then allowing other people to hear. They need to step up their work.
Yes.
To get to that place so that they can meet the one that God has for them.
I think a key in like what she said was the physical. Like when I met my fiance, I wasn't looking at him like, oh, look, this hot guy over there. And he was generally a nice person, but I think that women, we get caught up on physical too much. And we said we have this ideal man who's 6 feet tall and he has a perfect hair and he's got the perfect body, and it's just kind of like ridiculous. Because no one age is going to change in so many ways. In so many ways. And I think that of course physical attraction is necessary, but even in the Bible, when God took the rib from Adam and made Eve, he said nothing about physical attraction.
That's right.
So we prioritize that over what we really should be valuing in a person, which is their character.
Yes.
And for me, I've been guilty before, of dating or being interested in someone because, oh my God, he's so handsome. But, and my fiance is attractive and we're attracted to each other, but that wasn't my priority this time around. It was his character, because the tall, handsome guy that everybody wants was a jerk, or just kind of his character didn't match up with what I expected and what I wanted, or so I think that as women we have to stop prioritizing appearance. Of course, attraction is necessary in a relationship, but appearance can be deceiving, and a lot of times we get led into relationships over appearance and find out that we have removed ourselves so far from our morals, our values, and what we really want in a relationship. So, like you said, this generation is definitely obsessed with appearance, body image, and all those things. And not that those presenting yourself and making sure you look presentable, like my mom said, is necessary, but an over exaggeration of that is dangerous. It's dangerous because you have unrealistic expectations of your partner and of yourself, and that shouldn't be the focus in a relationship. So I would say prioritizing the person's character, prioritizing your character will give you more longevity versus appearance, which is fleeting, because we're all going to get moles and wrinkles and
can't stop.
Hair's gonna get gray hairs, all those things. Not that you shouldn't keep up your do the but those things will change over time.
It does. Gravity takes hold.
It does.
I'm telling you, things that never sang start singing. And when did that happen? It's so true. It's so true. So much with the eye gate.
Yes.
So much with the eye gate. And we, it's deceiving. They could be whitewashed tombs, They look beautiful on the outside, but dead man's bones.
Yes.
So we have to, and that's wisdom.
Yes.
That's wisdom to say
Amen.
that. So I would like for you to give a a summary, of what are the key things for a woman that is thinking about marriage. Or, speak to the woman out there who is really thinking, I need to prepare myself.
Amen.
Can you speak to that, kind of summarize it?
Oh yeah, sure. The first thing I would say is, before you can even think about marriage, you need to think about where you are with Christ. And the thing is that my thing was always that I will never give my heart away to someone ever again, unless God will have to bring that person in my life. And I explain that to my fiance, God has my heart. You have to earn it. So I think the number one thing is put if you're a Christian woman, if you're not a Christian woman, you're wanting to develop a relationship with Christ. Number one, to develop your relationship with Christ and fall in love with Christ. That's the first thing, because when you allow God to lead you in your choices, then you know that everything's gonna be okay. So that would be number one. Number two is do the work on yourself. Recognize the things in your life that may be holding you back from being able to receive love, because a lot of times as women we deal with hurt and we don't necessarily encounter the root of it, so we just kind of throw it in the back of the closet, and then, like you said, two broken people coming together is going to lead to a broken marriage. So work on yourself and deal with yourself. That was part of my 3-year process, is forgiving myself, because I knew what I expected, but I didn't uphold the standard completely, and so that's where the relationship crashed. So forgive yourself, deal with yourself. Then number three would be make a choice. Because I read this book by Miles Monroe a couple years before I met my fiance. It was called Waiting and Dating. And it really helps you differentiate difference in relationships, friendships, and romantic relationships. And he says in the book, God is not going to put one person in front of you. He's going to put people in front of you. He's going to put eligible men in front of you if you're following his word and what he wants for your life. And you have to choose.
Yes.
So I chose my fiance in a way because I saw his character. So he chose me and I chose him. It can't be just, like I said, fall out of the sky. No, it's not going to fall out of the sky. You You have to kind of and do your homework. Do your homework. So choose and do your homework. And then I would say the last thing would be kind of, this might be a little unconventional, but go outside your comfort zone, because like we said, the appearance thing is such a it's a big factor. And yes, health is important. Appearance is important, but if you stick to the guy that you cookie cutter guy that you always wanted, you might miss out on somebody so wonderful.
Amen.
Because
Amen.
you have this ideal in your mind that is not realistic, and you can't decide what your husband or who your husband's gonna be in a sense of what he looks like. You have to just trust that the decision you're making is good because you're basing off of character.
Amen.
So, and also have your character line up. Your character should line up.